Mei. What the hell? Hello everyone, it's Leo and I forgot to turn off my humidifier. And it's time to talk about episode 35 from Wonderful PreCure. I feel like lots of people have been waiting for this moment. And what a huge episode this was. It is finally time for us to understand more about Satoru's feelings, and I feel like this episode nailed it all. It was the perfect balance between comedy and emotions, and I also loved the artistic direction of it all. It was stunning, it was so pretty. I loved it. And I feel like the chaos served a lot of purpose here because Wonderful Precure never really lets it go too sad or lets things go too low energy. So it was a way to keep the balance of the energy up, and it was so good. It was really, really good. So we start the episode with a girl confessing to Satoru, and Mayu and Yuki oversee the situation, and they they use this opportunity to ask him if he is ever going to confess to Iroha. And he says he won't do it for two reasons. The first one is that he doesn't want to make her uncomfortable, and the second one is that he does not want to ruin their current relationship. I feel like both reasons are very understandable, and they are great reasons because it's easy to see, at least to us, it's easy to understand that Iroha does not care about this kind of thing. She does not have this sort of feeling towards Satoru. She doesn't show anything different towards him. So I feel like both of his reasonings are very good. But we have certain events of this episode leading towards something that will make him want to confess. And that is when Iroha starts talking about a certain Keiji which she loves so much, and she starts talking about certain aspects of him that she loves, and that makes Satoru very nervous, and it also makes Mayu very nervous because Mayu is living for all of this situation. She's been following Satoru's feelings. She knows how he feels about Iroha. Yuki also knows, but Yuki doesn't understand much about this type of relationship. We saw that in today's episode. There was a scene that she was like, "Oh, if Mayu says it's true, then it's true." Like she does not have the same understanding as the other two of the situation, and so Iroha invites them to see Keiji together with her. And obviously, we had to have this misunderstanding because it was so funny. The way they were, crawling to oversee the situation while Nico-sama was there sipping some tea and watching them on that super stupid situation. Oh my god, I just loved that scene. And then it was clear that she was not talking about a person. She was talking about a dog. Keiji is a dog, and that is a dog that she loves. Obviously, that is such an Iroha thing to do. But at the same time, the dog owner was there together with her, and he was interacting with Iroha. And at that moment, Satoru noticed that it was hard seeing Iroha interacting with someone like that while he was thinking of his own feelings, because he thought, well, maybe I will lose her to another guy and then we won't have the same type of relationship. It was obviously not the case to Iroha, but to him, who was having all of his feelings, all of those feelings in his mind, it's understandable. So he runs away and Mayu goes after him. I love that scene. One thing about the artistic direction of this episode that I mentioned earlier is that there were lots of flowers. And when we're talking about flowers, it is a good metaphor for romantic feelings. The flowers blooming the same way that feelings also bloom. And, the fleeting feeling of love, it's the same fleeting feeling of a flower, a fading flower. It's also fragile, like love, like a relationship. And it was everywhere. We had lots of different flowers appearing throughout the episode. We have a scene that I found really beautiful. That wall of flowers. Satoru was there. It was funny, obviously, with Mayu saying things like "kawakunai, kawakunai." She was using her phrase as Lily. to be some sort of help to Satoru. And then she was like, you have to tell her, I am Cura Lillian. And she said her phrase to weave and to connect, which is her phrase is Lillian. And she's like, I want to connect. I want to tie you two together. She is the biggest shipper. I just love, this is something that happens in Wonderful. They say their Cure phrases a lot outside of their Cure personas, because it's also part of their personality. And it makes sense for them as humans. That is so well done and wonderful. I love it. And then, she asks Satoru, would you be happy to see Iroha together with the guy that I forgot the name already? Would it be something that would bother you? And he was like, yes, that would bother me. Because it's not that he wants Iroha all for himself or anything like that, but I feel like he wants at least a chance. He wants to at least tell her how he feels, even though he said in the beginning that he didn't want to make her embarrassed or ruin the current relationship that they have. Having feelings like that is conflicting. It's when I remember when I was younger, when I was a teenager, this is something that makes you think, and this is something that makes your heart race. This is something that makes you nervous, makes you anxious. It hurts your stomach, your mouth gets dry, your heart beats faster, and especially when you think of acting on a feeling like that. So for them, it's really understandable. And so we get Nico-sama appearing, and Nico's like, okay, so you need some sort of help of professionals, of older people with more experience. And who is that? It's actually Mei. Girl, Mei has romantic experience? Not really, because Mei will use lots of different animals as love gurus for Satoru. And it's very funny, lots of funny moments of the animals showing how they do it in their own environment. Obviously, it does not work. Satoru is a human Mei. And then Mei learns that he's doing all that because Satoru is in love with Iroha. Mei gets desperate because that makes him feel that he will lose Satoru as his friend. And look, that was done for comedy and that was done for laughs, but it's very understandable. Whenever you have a very strong bond with someone, with a friend, and that friend is falling for another person, and there is a possibility of that friend start dating that other person, it's not that you will lose your friendship, but it will change. It will not be exactly the same as it was before. It's impossible. It's a different dynamic. And so it's understandable. The way Mei feels is also understandable, especially when Satoru is the only one in the whole show that gives him attention. Come on. Everyone else, they just ignore Mei. So yeah, it's really understandable when it's that way. But as I said, the episode goes from comedy to emotion very fast. And after all of the love lessons that Satoru received, he then shared to Mayu how he met Iroha. She asked him what he likes about her. And that's such another interesting point. I love that. When you're asked about what you love about the one you love, it's hard to answer. It's very hard to answer. It's very hard to put into words. It's very hard to organize your feelings like that. I also loved that. And then Mayu is also very wise because she quickly changed the question. So, okay, you can't tell me that, but you can tell me how you met Iroha. And then he started sharing something that is very interesting, which is something that we did not know. How they met, it was all because of Daifuku. And Daifuku was sick. He got bitten by a snake, and Satoru took him to the vet, to the friendly clinic. And there he met Iroha, and his feelings bloomed right from that moment. And that there was such a beautiful scene when Iroha told him that he is a very kind person, and she smiled at him. We could see the flowers blooming all behind Satoru. His feelings bloomed right at that moment. So amazing scene. Oh my god, it was very pretty. And at the same time, we have Torame, and Torame is the villain of the day. He creates a Gaogaon, and the action starts. I thought that we were gonna have Zakuro, because Zakuro is the one who is connected to feelings, to love. But I feel like it was a smart move having Torame today, because it would make sense for us to have Zakuro next week, more than today, I believe. And so the action starts. It's a kangaroo. Is that Tekken? I see you, Tekken. Roger. I forgot the name of the other kangaroo from Tekken. One is Roger was the dinosaur. What was the name of the kangaroo from Tekken? I don't remember anymore. I'm sorry. But, we had an action scene. And I feel like sometimes the action scenes from Wonderful, they drag on too much. And I feel like it was the same here. But what really matters is that we had a moment between Satoru and Cure Friendly. And he was the one who gave her an advice that helped her in the action scene. And in that moment, she thanked him, and he was able to look at her running away. He was running after her, and he noticed that what he really wants to do is to help her, is to keep on helping her to achieve her goal, which is to help the animals. What she wants to do is to help the animals, and what Satoru wants to do is to help Cure Friendly, is to help Iroha. And this is another one of the things that he admires in her a lot. And the last part of the chase scene was really cool. The way they created Lilianette. It was really, really nice. And then we get to the last scene of the episode. They are in a bridge. Again, another very, very beautiful scene. Visually, it was stunning. The direction of that scene was really, really something else. And Satoru tried to do it. He tried. And we have a nice scenario of... in one side, we have Satoru, Meimei, and Niko-sama. And on the other side, we have Iroha, and we have the Q-words, basically. Iroha, Komugi, Miyuki, and Mayu. Mayu is all anxious, all nervous. Yuki is holding Komugi, and on the other side, Meimei is being held back by Niko-sama. And Satoru is trying to muster up the courage to tell Iroha something. He can't. He just tells her, let's go home. He couldn't muster the courage to do that. But Meimei could not hold his tongue back. And he ended up spilling that he thought that it was that moment that Satoru would tell Iroha that he loves her. And Iroha listened. Everybody listened. And as I said, I love the artistic and chaotic and funny and comedic side of things. The faces of everybody, like Mayu's face, Yuki's face, it was gorgeous. It was more on the comedic side. Meimei's face as well. It was more on the comedic side. While we have Komugi, like, Suki? Love? What does that mean? She doesn't understand, obviously. And then Iroha starts to grasp. Satoru gets all red. And at the same time, we have a leaf falling on the river. Very beautiful. Because when a leaf falls down of the tree, it just represents the passage of time. And passage of time means what is done cannot be taken back. And that's what happened at that moment. There was no going back. Satoru did not muster up the courage to tell Iroha how he feels. But it's now impossible to go back because she now knows how he feels. Even though it was not 100% clear, she knows how he feels. And there's no way to run back from what was said. And so next week, we are going to see the resolve of this mini arc from Satoru's feelings. And two things. The first one is that I really like how they dealt with the way Satoru feels about Iroha. I felt that it was very rich. We had him feeling afraid. We have him sharing how he met her and how his feelings started for her. We shared. He shared why he doesn't talk about his feelings towards her. So it was very, very rich, very complete for his character. Now I feel like the one thing that's missing is the other side, because Iroha is a very lovely character. But I feel like every time the show has a scenario for Iroha, it's always someone else acting on her behalf. And right now it's her feelings. It is her dealing with her feelings. How is it gonna be? I really hope Wonderful focuses on that. If it's a yes, if it's a no, if it's a maybe, if it's I don't know, I really hope Wonderful PreCure is able to work with that nicely, because I feel like sometimes whenever it's time for Iroha to take the center stage, something happens and she doesn't really take the center stage. And so I feel like this is another opportunity for that to happen. And I really, really want to see that next week, because I feel like this episode was really complete. And if next week, because for what we see so far from Iroha, it's like, I don't think about that too much. I don't have the same feelings as you. So it's probably going to be something like that, I believe. So I hope they work that very nicely onto her head. She's probably going to be very confused. And that is why I understand Satoru's initial feelings while saying, I don't want to make her uncomfortable, because now it is impossible to take back what was said, what was done. And it is hard to be or to have the same relationship as before. It's very hard. Think about when you were younger. If you had to turn down someone that was a very close friend of yours, would you be able to do that and have the same relationship as before? It might be possible, but I feel like it's very hard. Anyways, this is my view on episode 35. I'm very curious for next week. What's gonna happen? Oh my god. Anyways, maybe this is it for now. I want to take this little time to thank the members of the Magical Cinnamon channel. If you're a member here on YouTube, on Patreon, if you support me on Throne, thank you very, very much for your support. I really appreciate it. It really motivates me to keep going. Anyways, this is it for now. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.